Thank you for joining me today on the WNBA on NBC. I am Natalie Esquire, and I'm here with my girl, Khristina Williams. And Khristina, the coaching landscape has changed a lot in the WNBA and will look pretty different in 2026. And there's been a lot of commentary and chatter about it. And I think for good reason, right? And so we'll dig into all of that. But first, I want to talk about the new coaches that were hired. And there were 5 new opportunities for head coaching positions. And so this is all of the head coaches for 2026, but we're going to focus on the 5 new hires, right? And so there are 2 new expansion teams. So Sandy Brondello, a coach you're familiar with from covering the New York Liberty, she took on the job as the new head coach of the Toronto Tempo, which she's very excited about. She talked about looking forward to building something from the ground up, a new opportunity. And so she will be the new coach of the Toronto Tempo. And she actually said that she turned down higher paying opportunities, I believe, with the Wings and was it the Storm, to take this role. So she was the first choice for some other teams, but she picked Toronto, and she will be their new coach. What do you think of that hire for Toronto?
I think there isn't a better choice than Sandy Brondello. She not only has experience as a former WNBA player, but she's won 2 championships as a head coach. She spent 13 seasons as a head coach, 8 seasons as an assistant coach in the W. She's also the head coach of the Australian national team. And so when you talk about the Toronto Tempo, this is the WNBA's first crack at making this a global game by having a team in Canada. And so why not hire a coach who has experience in the WNBA, but also international experience? I think what was the winning or the sell for Monica Wright Rogers, who is the general manager of the Toronto Tempo, was getting a coach who could, one, attract free agents and a coach with experience. And so I think that Sandy Brondello embodies that. And look at what she did in New York. In 4 seasons, she was able to bring a championship to that franchise, left as one of the winningest coaches in that franchise's history. And so there's lots of positives when it comes to Sandy Brondello. She also mentioned that she'll be bringing over her husband and assistant coach Olaf Lange to her coaching staff. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how they build their roster. But she's excited to create, an identity and a culture with this Toronto Tempo team that's not only Toronto's team, but as we mentioned, it's Canada's team.
Yep.
And so I think that there's no better choice than Coach Sandy.
Yeah, and she's, I believe, one of 3 head coaches that have won a championship. It's her, Becky, and Coach Reeve, right? And so all women.
She's done it on 2 different franchises.
Yep.
With Phoenix, with New York.
Yep. So proven winner, proven champion. I like the hire a lot. I think it's a great rebound for Sandy. I'm definitely someone who was side-eyeing the Liberty for this decision to let Sandy go. I thought she deserved at least one more year. This will be Cole's 3rd coach during his tenure with the New York Liberty. So we will talk about the New York Liberty's hire, but let's talk about some other teams first. You have the Dallas Wings, who replaced Chris Koklanis with Jose Fernandez. Now, this Dallas went the route similar to what the Atlanta Dream did. They went to a women's college basketball coach with 25 years of experience, which is notable. And look, it worked out for Atlanta. So, there is evidence that this could work. Also known for player development. And Jose is a person of color. So, people might be wondering why I keep referencing color, woman, demographics, but this is part of the conversation right now happening around the WNBA because of its population. The league is 80% players of color, and 60 to 70% of those are Black women. And so, like many other sports leagues across, the world, the demographics of the leadership and the coaches do not usually align with the demographics of the players. And so it's something noteworthy. It's some may not see as a discussion to have, but it is. And so Jose Fernandez coming in, there's also the ratio between men and women. And so, there's, I love Chelsea. She's always giving us like these stats, breaking down some of this stuff. And so, look, people are not pleased right now with some of, these hires. Right now, the Jose hire doesn't concern me. Obviously, I'm okay with Sandy Brondello. Sonia Rahman replaces Noelle Quinn in Seattle. Another experienced hire. You're familiar with her. She was most recently an assistant on the New York Liberty staff. What are the Storm getting in Sonia?
I think Sonia was mostly praised for being a good developing coach as well, especially defensively, right? And I mean, offensively. Sorry, she was the offensive coach with the Liberty. And so I think that what they're getting is they want to invest in their future, right? When you talk about the identity of the Storm post Super Brianna Stewart, Jewell Loyd, you're looking at Dominique Malunga and also that lottery pick that they just picked up via the Sparks for 2026. How can she help improve this team's offense so that they can be a contending team? You have the veteran players that we always talk about if they come back, and Skylar Diggins and Skylar Diggins and Nneka Ogwumike and Gabby Williams, if they decide to come back after free agency. But I think the future of the franchise is Dominique Malunga. So I think that what's promising is you have someone who's the youngest player in the WNBA right now, a rookie who has great upside, great international experience. And so when you're building and thinking about the future, I think that Sonia could help bring in some offensive power and some structure, right, in a new system that could help them contend. And then you mentioned Jose Fernandez, 25 seasons as a college basketball coach. And there's a trend with this hiring cycle, I think, with hiring NBA experienced coaches and those women's college basketball coaches. The Wings picked up another #1 pick for 2026. But the Wings is also a franchise who has had 6 new head coaches since 2018, right? So they need someone who could come in, make an impact, but someone who can also have longevity to create some sort of consistency and connection with the players to establish what their identity is going to be like with Paige Bueckers and who they pick up in 2026 for that #1 pick. And so I like those 2 hires personally. Sonia, she was able to get some experience with the New York Liberty for a season. And then Jose, although he doesn't have WNBA experience, he does have women's basketball experience, which I think gives him a heads up. He also confided in Gina Auriemma as well. And so I think that he has some great support around him when we talk about what the identity for the Wings will look like in the Paige Bueckers era.
Yeah. Something else to note about Sonia, she does have NBA experience as well, doing player development with the Memphis Grizzlies, and also college coaching experience with MIT, and turned that into a credible basketball program. So she also has very vast experience, and she's also a woman of color. I believe she's the first Indian American coach in the WNBA. So yeah, we like to see diversity. Diversity is good. And so I think all of these are solid coaching hires. I think one of the ones that a lot of people were critical of and calling into question was Alex Sarama, the Portland Fire's head coach hire. Most recently, he served as assistant coach of player development for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and very into like analytics, but the experience does not have a lot of experience with the WNBA, women's basketball. Some people may say, why does that matter? Basketball is basketball. Time will tell. I also don't like this idea because, I mean, look, Nate Tibbetts came in and people were critical of him, and he did a great job. So if you want someone to compare it to, it's probably similar to the Nate Tibbetts hire in Phoenix, which has worked out. They were just in the WNBA finals. Kristi Tolliver, who is a part of Nate Tibbetts' staff, was also interviewing for the head coaching position that the New York Liberty had open. And so she obviously did not end up as the head coach. But one of the things like people keep saying is like, the Phoenix Mercury make sure they paired someone like her with him to help him, transition. And so that Alex will probably need something similar. But I got to tell you, I'm not a fan of getting these really qualified Black women to any woman, whoever, to be at the aid, of these men. And look, he's given Christy so much respect and praised her and shouted her out. So, the players love him. His staff seems to love him. So I'm not criticizing Nate Tibbetts, but I don't know that I think that should be a trend, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think most of the chatter that I've been able to see online is fans enraged about glorified player development coaches getting these head coaching jobs. And Candace Parker brought up something really interesting on one of her recent shows and saying that there needs to be a better system in place in terms of player assistants getting streamlined to these head coaching positions, some sort of structure, right? Like the WNBA over the last several years, have been able to implement a program where you have, former players on the bench. I think that's the first start, right? But now we need to see them not only get interviewed and considered, but into those head coaching positions. Because I think it's better for the game when you have former players in those positions. And Alex raised a huge question mark, but also just how everything that the Portland Fire have done up until this point has raised lots of question marks. We know that he's most praised for his training system that he's been able to implement that's become popular in European basketball. And that hire made me think of something that Jonathan Kolb said in his exit interview about the innovation and evolution of the game. And so maybe that's where the Portland Fire was going with this hire, and trying to keep up with the evolution and innovation of where the WNBA is going. And as you said, time will tell if this was a right choice or not. But I think that his supporting staff will have to be equally as important moving forward, especially if you want to attract free agents in Portland.
Yeah. Well, look, the final coaching hire is Chris DeMarco, and he comes from a team that I love, the Golden State Warriors, and he's actually the only holdover from the Mark Jackson era. He's been with the Warriors for 14 years, has a vast background with them, lots of experience, has watched the dynasty form, and so he wasn't even like a front runner. And then like in the last month, like all of a sudden his name emerged and he became the front runner. And apparently Sabrina Ionescu called up Steph Curry about him to ask questions, which is no surprise. She has like a very close relationship with Steph. She's a shooter. Her game is Steph-like in ways. And so she wanted to know about him. She wanted to know how he communicated. And she recently attended a game where the Warriors were playing the Utah Jazz. And, she was talking with Chris. She was there with him. He even had on her sneakers, so he's doing all the things to start his new relationship with her. This is not an official hire yet, so it hasn't even been announced on the Liberty haven't, it's been reported, but not official. And so Steve Kerr declined to even talk about it. He's still working for the Warriors. But you can see he has championship experience with the Warriors as an assistant head coach. So they won 4 championships. And he also has experience coaching the Bahamas men's national team, which some say may help with relations with Jonquel Jones. So, yeah, what do you think of the DeMarco hire, Khristina?
Yeah, I think that in terms of the hire, I like it a lot. You mentioned, Sabrina, that connection with the Bahamian national team with Jonquel. If you want to retain your superstars, you got to make them happy. And I think that Jonathan Kolb's job, honestly, it depends on the success of this next coach. You mentioned having 3 head coaches in his tenure since he took over the Liberty as general manager in 2019. And his exit interviews with select media, he talked about wanting to hire someone who is innovative, someone who can adapt with the evolution of the league and the growth of the game. And he emphasized process. And now I don't know if that was the sole reason why they decided not to extend Sandy Brondello's contract in New York, but he talked about wanting a coach who was good at preparation, adjusting in game, and their approach to the season. So process was a huge part. And you would want someone who knows a thing or two about winning, being a part of coaching staff with 4 NBA championships, talked about adaptability, the style of where the WNBA is going. The Warriors they embody like where the WNBA is going in terms of style of play. And the Liberty, they want to contend. They want to be able to peak when the playoffs are beginning, as Jonathan Cole mentioned in his exit interviews. And I think that this past season was just unfortunate because of all of the injuries and ins and outs, not having your core players. And so I like this. He's a defensive minded coach, I hear. And so that was something that
Yes.
the Liberty absolutely sucked at in the 2025 season. And so I'm excited to see how he can work with superstars like Brianna Stewart, potentially, Sabrina Ionescu, John Quell Jones, if they all decided to re-sign with the Liberty. I'm excited to see because he has experience working with the Steph Currys, the Klay Thompsons, the Draymond Greens. And so how he can implement some of that Warriors system into the New York Liberty. We've seen how successful Becky Hammon has been, and she's from the Greg Popovich coaching tree. So to have some of these high-level elite assistants come into the W, I'm all there for. And it seems like he aligns with what General Manager John Nicole said in his exit interviews and what the New York Liberty ownership wants for the next phase of New York Liberty basketball.
Yeah, it'd also be interesting to see how he works with Brianna Stewart. He has experience integrating a player like Kevin Durant onto the Warriors. And even though like Brianna Stewart is already a part of the team, I think there's some similarities between Stewie and Katie's game. And also Stewie was a staunch supporter of Sandy. So how he builds that relationship with her, there's a lot of focus on Sabrina right now, understandably, but Stewie is also a really important piece of the puzzle. So will be interesting to see how that plays out. But Chris is definitely a great coach, for sure. I'm familiar with him. And so I do think that's a good hire as well. And I don't think it's as questionable. He's very, very, very experienced, but not very experienced with women's college basketball. So we will see how that all unfolds.